So you think becoming a Navy officer is all about commanding ships, sipping coffee on the bridge, and shouting full speed ahead like you're in a Hollywood movie? That would be something fun. In reality, being a Navy officer is like playing the world's most stressful game of who actually knows what's going on. Except the answer is almost always the chief. From the bottom-rung ensign, who looks like a lost intern wandering around the world's biggest floating office building, to the admirals, who spend more time in meetings than on the ocean. Every officer rank comes with its own special mix of responsibility, confusion, and guaranteed embarrassment. And let's not forget, in the Navy, rank isn't just about pay or authority. It also determines how much people will laugh behind your back when you inevitably mess up. So, buckle in. We're going to roast every Navy officer rank, one by one, from the very first gold stripe to the stars at the top. And trust me, whether you sink, swim, or just get assigned another never-ending Excel tracker, you'll see why every officer rank is both a promotion and a punchline. 01. Ensign. Welcome to the Navy Officer Club. You're an ensign now, which means two things. You've got a shiny gold stripe on your sleeve and absolutely no idea what you're doing. Seriously, ensigns are like freshmen wandering around a college campus, except instead of figuring out where the cafeteria is, you're trying to find your division, your chief, and probably your dignity. Spoiler, the chief has all three. Ensigns are usually straight out of college or officer candidate school, armed with a degree, a textbook's worth of theory, and zero practical experience. They're trusted with leading sailors who've been in the Navy longer than they've been alive. That's like asking someone who just got their learner's permit to teach a NASCAR driver how to handle turns. Everyone knows ensigns make mistakes. It's practically part of the job description. Forgetting uniform regs, saluting random objects, writing emails that read like a legal contract, all standard. And the best part? You don't even know enough to realize how wrong you are. The only thing saving you is that the Navy expects you to screw up. So long as you survive long enough to learn, you'll move on. Think of ensign as the Navy's polite way of saying, here's your gold stripe, try not to sink anything. 02. Lieutenant Junior Grade, LTJG. Congratulations, you've leveled up from ensign to lieutenant junior grade. That means you've officially survived 1 year without accidentally setting the ship on fire, saluting a mop bucket, or calling the captain dude. Progress. The Navy rewards you with a slightly thicker stripe on your sleeve and a new nickname, Lieutenant Just Got Here. Being a LTJG is like being the awkward middle child of the officer corps. You're not the clueless ensign anymore, but you're also not important enough to be trusted with the big stuff. Think of it as probation, long enough for the Navy to see if you're capable of real responsibility, or if you'll be quietly shuffled into a job where you can't break anything expensive. This is the rank where you start to kind of know what's going on. You've figured out how to use Navy email without CCing the entire fleet. You've stopped calling the chief sir, and you've learned that meetings aren't for solving problems. They're for assigning you more Excel spreadsheets. In short, Lieutenant Junior Grade is the you're doing fine kid stage. No one expects greatness yet, but at least you're no longer the punchline of every wardroom joke. 03. Lieutenant, LT. Now we're talking. The Navy lieutenant is basically the backbone of junior officers. You've been around long enough to not be totally lost, but you're still young enough to be given all the jobs nobody else wants. Congratulations. You are now officially the Navy's middle management. This is the rank where you finally get some respect. Ensigns and LTJGs look up to you like you're some kind of wizard who knows how the Navy actually works. Chiefs, on the other hand, still roll their eyes at you, but at least now it's a quieter, more respectful eye roll. You're not the new kid anymore. You're the slightly overworked, under-caffeinated babysitter of everyone below you. Lieutenants are usually division officers, department heads on smaller ships, or leading aviation squadrons. Translation: you spend your days juggling sailors' problems, endless admin, and wondering why the XO keeps adding tasks that have nothing to do with your job. And let's not forget the stereotype. Navy LTs are famous for being dangerously confident. You've got just enough experience to think you can outsmart the system, but not enough to realize the system will crush you like a soda can. Many career Navy folks say this is the rank where you either burn out or prove your officer material. So enjoy it. You're the boss now, at least until your first run-in with an 05 commander. 04. Lieutenant Commander, LCDR. Welcome to Lieutenant Commander, the rank where you're finally considered a senior officer, but deep down you're still figuring out if this was a good career choice. This is the rank where you've survived long enough to have a permanent coffee mug, a permanent stress headache, and probably a divorce lawyer on speed dial. As an LCDR, you usually serve as an XO, executive officer, on smaller ships, or as department head on larger ones. Translation: you're no longer the scrappy middle manager, you're the slightly broken middle manager. Chiefs now treat you like you actually know what you're talking about, but they still quietly fix everything behind your back. And ensigns? They think you're terrifying. Here's the kicker. Lieutenant Commander is also known as the career gate. Make it past this, and you might retire with a pension. Don't make it? Well, at least your resume will say leadership experience before you end up in corporate middle management. Stereotype-wise, LCDRS are either absolute pros who have the Navy in their veins, or bitter souls counting down the days until they can buy a fishing boat. Either way, this is where the game gets serious. You're now too expensive to fail upward without people noticing. 05. Commander, CDR. Commander, the rank where you finally get a taste of real power. You're no longer middle management, you're upper management with your own parking spot. At this level, you're often the XO of a big deal warship, or the CO, commanding officer, of something smaller, like a destroyer, submarine, or aviation squadron. Translation, you're the boss. The ship doesn't move, the squadron doesn't fly, and the crew doesn't breathe without your say-so. Sounds glorious, right? Except with great power comes great amounts of paperwork. You thought being a lieutenant commander was stressful? Try being the one who gets blamed for everything, from a broken radar system to why the ice cream machine isn't working in the galley. Stereotypes about commanders vary wildly. Some are legendary leaders, the type sailors would follow into a hurricane. Others are infamous tyrants who micromanage how you fold your socks. Either way, your reputation as a commander will follow you for the rest of your career. This is also the make or break rank for reaching captain. Do well, and you're steering toward your own aircraft carrier. Do poorly, and you're steering toward retirement, or worse, a Pentagon desk. 06. Captain. Capt. Congratulations. You've made it to captain, the rank that turns you into a full-blown sea lord. You're no longer just a commanding officer. You're the commanding officer of major ships like cruisers or aircraft carriers, or maybe even the CO of an entire shore installation. In other words, you're either running a floating city at sea or babysitting thousands of sailors on land. Either way, you're the face of the Navy for everyone under you. Here's the truth. Captains are powerful, but they also live in constant paranoia. Why? Because one mistake, a bad deployment, a failed inspection, or your ship running into something it shouldn't, ends careers instantly. The Navy doesn't forgive captains who embarrass them. You'll be retired so fast you won't even have time to clean out your sea bag. Stereotypes? Some captains are inspirational legends, charismatic, decisive, and beloved. Others are tyrants with god complexes who think the ship is an extension of their ego. Either way, everyone knows that when the captain walks onto the bridge, the entire atmosphere shifts like Zeus just entered the room. Make no mistake, if you're wearing the 4 stripes of a Navy captain, you've either peaked or you're about to roll the dice for Admiral. 07. Rear Admiral Lower Half, RDML. Welcome to Flag Rank. Congratulations, you've officially joined the Navy's version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You now wear a star on your shoulder, which means people salute you from miles away, even if you're just ordering a sandwich. But don't get too comfortable. This is Rear Admiral Lower Half, which sounds less like a naval rank and more like a rejected pirate nickname. Basically, you're the baby admiral, the rookie in a league of political sharks. Your job at this point? Oversee big operations, regional commands, task forces, or specialized programs that span multiple ships or bases. You're no longer leading just a crew. You're leading entire fleets of crews. You've gone from being a boss to being a brand. But here's the catch. Flag rank is where the Navy stops being about how well you command ships and starts being about how well you command politics, connections, strategy, and not embarrassing the Navy at congressional hearings will determine if you climb higher. Stereotypes about RDMLS, half are brilliant strategists, half are glorified PowerPoint presenters in starched uniforms. Either way, you've now joined the game where careers are decided in DC conference rooms, more than on the open seas. 08. Rear Admiral Upper Half, RADM. Ah yes, the magical transformation from baby admiral to real admiral. With that second star pinned on your collar, you've now graduated from Rear Admiral Lower Half, which honestly sounds like an insult, to Rear Admiral Upper Half, because nothing says prestige like splitting a rank in half to keep everyone humble. Now you're commanding entire numbered fleets, or massive regional responsibilities. Forget one ship, forget one squadron, you're coordinating the movements of thousands of sailors across oceans. The Navy has trusted you with an empire of steel and salt water, which sounds epic, until you realize your real battlefield is still conference calls and strategic memos. Welcome to flag life. But here's the kicker. RADMS are walking paradoxes. On one hand, they're powerful leaders. On the other, they're constantly under pressure from politicians, admirals above them, and the press. Every decision is scrutinized. Every headline could ruin careers. And yes, people will whisper that you're either on the fast track to vice admiral or about to vanish into the mandatory retirement pile with a shiny 2-star send-off. Still, at this level, you're playing chess with fleets, and every move you make will ripple across the entire Navy. No pressure, right? 09. Vice Admiral, VADM. Welcome to the big leagues. 3 stars shining bright on your collar. By now, you're not just part of the Navy. You are the Navy. Vice Admirals are entrusted with the command of entire fleets, major regional theaters, or specialized branches of naval warfare. Think of it like managing a Fortune 500 company, except your employees carry missiles, and your board of directors is the Pentagon. Here's the truth. As a VADM, you're so far removed from daily sailor life that you couldn't find the galley on a destroyer if someone drew you a map, but that's fine, because your focus is strategy, policy, and making sure the Navy doesn't accidentally start World War III. Not a small task. The stereotype? Vice Admiral admirals are either brilliant visionaries who shape doctrine for decades, or over-caffeinated bureaucrats who schedule more meetings than the average HR department. Either way, this is where the stakes get real. One bad call doesn't just mean a bad fitness report. It could mean headlines, congressional hearings, or geopolitical nightmares. At this level, every decision feels like a chess move in global strategy. The oceans aren't just water anymore. They're political battlegrounds. And you're one of the generals of the sea. O10, Admiral. ADM. This is it, the mountaintop of the Navy's active duty ranks. 4 stars gleaming on your shoulders, and with them, almost mythical levels of authority. Admirals don't just command fleets, they command entire oceans. You're overseeing naval operations that stretch across half the globe, managing international alliances, and yes, making phone calls where world leaders actually pick up. At this level, you don't just play the game, you help write the rules. But let's not sugarcoat it. Admirals live under a microscope sharper than a lab sample. Every choice, from where to park a carrier strike group to how you phrase a speech at a press briefing, has ripple effects across the planet. Your calendar isn't filled with liberty calls. It's jam-packed with classified briefings, inter-service rivalries, and occasionally babysitting Congress. The stereotype? Admirals are the Navy's philosophers, and politicians rolled into one. They talk in sentences so long they sound like strategy textbooks, and if you're enlisted, you'll likely never meet one in your life. To sailors, an admiral is basically a mythical sea god, mentioned often, rarely spotted. And remember, there's only a handful of these 4 stars at any given time, which means if you made it here, congratulations. You've reached the closest thing the Navy has to royalty. Fleet Admiral, FADM, the unicorn rank. Now we've arrived at the mythical beast of Navy ranks, the Fleet Admiral. 5 stars across your collar, shining like you just robbed Orion's belt. But here's the catch. You're never going to see one in real life. This rank hasn't been used since World War II, when the US needed supreme commanders to oversee multiple fleets across entire theaters of war. Think Nimitz, King, Leahy, and Halsey, the legends whose names get etched into aircraft carriers. Fleet Admiral isn't just a promotion. It's a declaration that you basically are the Navy. You're not managing ships, you're managing wars. Your decisions involve not just ships and sailors, but entire continents and global strategy. You have so much authority that even 4-star admirals call you sir, with trembling voices. The stereotype? None. Fleet admirals are beyond stereotypes. They're history's titans, the figures you read about in textbooks and whose portraits hang in war colleges. Reaching this rank today would mean World War III, so maybe it's a good thing it stays retired. So there you have it. Every Navy officer rank, from Ensign with the deer in the headlights look to the legendary Fleet Admiral. And hey, if you want to see the other side of the Navy ladder, don't stop here. Go check out my latest video breaking down the enlisted ranks of the Navy, because spoiler alert, that's where the real chaos happens.